The views, opinions, and statements expressed by our guests are solely their own and do not necessarily reflect those of Dr. Jason Littleton or the Concierge Doc Podcast. We do not endorse or take responsibility for any statements, claims, or perspectives shared in this content. Viewers are encouraged to conduct their own research and form their own conclusions.
Access to the information and materials contained in this podcast is at your own risk. The information contained is presented for the purpose of educating the consumer on a variety of wellness and healthcare topics. The information. Nothing contained is intended to be instructional for medical diagnosis or treatment. The information contained is compiled from a variety of sources. The information should not be considered complete and exhaustive and should not be in place of a visit or consultation with your own primary care doctor. Welcome to the Concierge Doc Podcast. I'm your host, CEO and founder of Littleton Concierge Medicine, Dr. Jason Littleton. Welcome to the podcast. I'm very excited about today because I get an opportunity to introduce you to my personal executive organizer. And a lot of people don't know what an executive organizer does, but we're here to talk to you about that today and share with you what that role plays. Now, personally, I know for my family and I and for my business, an executive organizer is so important because it streamlines things in my life and in my environment. And that's so important because it makes me so much more productive. And it helps me not only to make more money, but it helps me to help you and others so much faster. It's so important. So today I want to introduce you to Erin Johnson. Erin, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Dr. Littleton.
Thank you. Thank you for coming on. I've been wanting to do this podcast for a while.
Yes.
And one of the reasons that I wanted to introduce you to my podcast audience is because, you know, behind the scenes, you make my life that much more organized, and just so much of it has to do with how you streamline not only my environment as it pertains to my office, but as it pertains to our nutrition, everything that makes my family just function at a higher level. And I think it's so important. You have an eye to strategically look at a person's environment and then see how it can be contoured so that they can just think faster, be more productive, and actually be more healthier. Because I think that one of the things I want to get into is when you do some of our grocery shopping and when you organize the way our kitchen environment looks, where you're putting foods, healthy foods, organic foods in places that makes it so much easier to grab and go, healthier products versus not that we have anything unhealthy in our house, but it causes us to be able to just strategically go ahead and just have a constant flow of nutrition and not have to think about, I've got to take time to make this or prepare this. It's just grab and go. And I like that because they're healthy choices. Now, talk to us about, you know, who you are, your business, the name of your business, because you work with a lot of high-level people, celebrities. Talk to me about that and just really what your organization is about.
Well, that's awesome. Again, thank you for having me on your show today, Dr. Littleton.
Yeah, absolutely.
So again, my name is Erin, and also known as Erin the Organizer. And so I help people to really customize a system for their home. So there's not a per se cookie cutter type of way of doing your home. Every person, whether they're a celebrity, whether they're a regular, 9-to-5 worker, or even stay-at-home moms. I help a lot of people who are stay-at-home moms. People think like just because you're at home, you have time to get things in order. Maybe you just don't know how to even start. Many of my clients feel overwhelmed and they feel like a loss of energy, feel stressed because of things being out of place. And so what I do is I come in and we create systems for every room. And I think that's really the key.
This is not the same thing as someone coming in and cleaning your house. This is different.
Very different.
And
different.
That's what I want people to understand, that what you're doing, it's not cleaning a home. Because I have people that clean my home. and they don't do anything when it comes to organization.
Right.
It's more about making sure things are spotless, right?
Right.
But that's not what you do. What you're talking about.
They're doing sweeping and mopping of floors.
Yeah, they're doing things like
that.
that. We're not talking about that. What you're talking about is setting up platforms, and really strategic, opportunities in the home so things can be faster and streamlined, right?
Right,
okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, go ahead. I wanted to just clarify that.
I'm glad that you did that.
It's different.
Yeah, it's definitely different. And I'm glad that you mentioned that, because at one time I did do home cleaning. And one thing I noticed with my clients that I was working with at that time, they were high level clients, just like you are. But they would say, hey, don't touch that pile, or hey, this area right here, just leave it alone. Then I would notice every week I would come and clean.
Right.
That pile would keep growing and growing and growing, and it would just stay there because they didn't have time to tackle it.
Right.
So I transitioned from just doing home cleaning to now doing home organization and helping people to create systems for their home.
Yeah.
And it really cuts down on piles, because now you know where the papers belong.
Right.
So it's easier, like once you have a system, you know where to put it.
Right.
And you mentioned even things like in your kitchen, how your kitchen has a certain flow to it.
Yeah.
I believe that having your pantry and your refrigerator, having a system for those areas, it keeps you from overbuying, it keeps you from buying things that you don't really need. Because, I've had some clients where they keep buying ketchup and mustard because they didn't know it was in the back.
Right.
But when you have a system, you can really see what you have and take better inventory of it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I do for my clients.
And I want to stop here for a second, because what I really want listeners to know, because when I'm working with my clients, trying to improve health, whether it's weight loss,
right,
whether it's just having more energy or just eating better, improving the numbers, whether it's blood pressure, blood sugar, cholesterol, eating healthy is important. And I know one of the things that you do for my family and I is you'll go to places like Trader Joe's or Whole Foods, and I know you have a list of things, but you're selecting things that are going to be nutritious for us to eat, and then you're preparing it, and then you're setting it up in a strategic manner, whether it's in, our pantry or it's in our refrigerator, so that, again, we can grab and go healthy options.
Right.
It helps. And I think that's a hurdle for a lot of people, because just the food prep, I think right there, people get stuck.
It's true.
And they won't buy certain nutritious fruits or nuts because they also know that they have to prepare it. And sometimes people don't have time for it. It's not that people are lazy. It's just that sometimes I think people don't have time for it because they're off doing their business or their job, and they're focused on so many things.
Right.
But having another brain come into the room and organize it, and that's an expert like you are, and set things up, makes it easy so it can be thoughtless. And that's a luxury. And so, I want you to talk about that a little bit, because I know that when your food place is organized, then you can have more energy, you can eat healthier, you can lose weight, you can make a difference. Because a lot of people might be wondering, because I have doctors on my show, I have a lot of different scientists on the show that, are talking from more of a scientific medical perspective. And yet, with you not being a doctor or a scientist, how can you make someone healthier? Well, to me, it's obvious. You make us healthier because you organize not only our environment, but our food.
Right.
And that's where it all starts when it comes to medicine, what we eat.
Right.
So talk to us a little bit about that.
I believe that really having your fruit, your vegetables, your refrigerator organized in a manner where whether you have small children or just a husband and wife, or even if it's a single person, having your food easily accessible. If you come in and all your fruit is still in the exact same bags as you brought them home from the grocery store, most likely you're going to say, do I really feel like cleaning these strawberries, or should I just go grab a bag of chips?
Right.
You're going to do the easiest. You're going to take the path of less resistance,
Of course, and that's the problem.
in the moment.
Right.
But having someone like me that can come in, create this system, and then make sure that you don't have old fruits and vegetables. Because I mean, I've had tons of people have told me they spend the money, they buy the fruits and vegetables.
Right.
Then it sits in the refrigerator.
Right.
Then it gets all, old
Right, moldy,
and
smelly.
molded, smelly, right. And so now they end up having to throw it. So now throw it out. Now they've just wasted hundreds of dollars on fresh fruits that never got eaten.
Yeah.
So I believe that preparing them and having them in individual, not like in large containers, but individual grab and go. So that if you have a small child, like you have your child who's able to just come in and just say, hey, you know what? I love strawberries. Let me just grab a container of strawberries. And your wife explained to me that now she's eating way more fruits and
Right.
vegetables than what she ever did before because it's easily accessible.
Yeah.
And I think
that
that's
makes
the
sense.
key.
And I want to pause for a second because that what you just said about children just going into the refrigerator or cupboard and our pantry and just reaching when you're not looking, your children could eat unhealthy depending on what you have in your pantry or your refrigerator, especially if it's not laid out, organized, and planned. And so I can see how, making sure that things are organized so that they only have an option to choose healthy selections
I agree.
is huge.
That's
right.
very
Childhood
huge.
obesity is a big thing.
It is.
Elevated blood sugar, childhood, just morbidities just from eating basically eating unhealthy.
Right.
Really can impact their lives. So having things organized so that they only have an option to select healthy foods is really important.
Right.
That's huge. No, I love what you said there. Now, I mean, you're working with, like I said, executives, CEOs, high-level people all the time, and you're helping people to have a more productive environment.
Right.
What got you into that? How'd you know?
Well, I think it really started when I was in the cleaning industry. I started very young at the age of 19. Okay. So that was like almost 30 years ago. I started in the cleaning industry, helping people to get their home mainly just cleaned. And, I believe that transitioning now into the organizing side, I've found greater joy because I get to work hands-on with the client and we get to customize a system that works for them.
Yeah.
Because everybody is not the same. For you, like food prep is very important. For your wife, her closet is very important. Your office is very important. But then I have other clients that I work with, and for them, they're like, I don't really care about the refrigerator or the pantry. I care more about making sure my papers are organized.
Right.
And people don't even really consider that even for your home, it would be great to have a filing system for your home.
Right.
Like for bills, for insurance.
Yeah.
I've helped people to organize like all of their life insurance information.
Right.
Because God forbid something happened to someone, do you really want everyone having to search around trying to find paperwork?
Right.
So I help people to streamline and create systems in different areas, whatever is most important for them, whatever is causing them to feel like it's draining their energy, that's what we focus on. So it's a different focus for each family.
And that makes a huge difference. Even like you said, organizing papers, insurance paperwork, all those things. You're taking the stress away from daily life. That's what you're doing. And I know, being a concierge doctor, when we're dealing with stress, when we're dealing with nutrition, you're making life easier.
Right.
Stress is a big deal. I think when you have a cluttered home, you worry more, you're less productive. You always feel like you're carrying around extra weight. And so what you're talking about is streamlining a person's environment. And I think this makes a huge difference. One of the reasons I wanted to bring you on is not only does your organization help people to eat better, especially with people want you to organize their pantry, refrigerator, etc. But I think when you're organizing systems and creating systems in their home, you're dealing with stress. And that's huge. You're dealing with anxiety, you're dealing with worry, you're even dealing with depression, because people can feel down and not realize it just because of the weight that they carry when they come into an environment. Sometimes people don't even want to go into a room because it's not organized, it's not pleasant, it doesn't look appealing. And that's a problem. And it affects their psyche. This is huge. I know that you and your team, you've done things as far as building shelves, organizing our garage, organizing our, athletic equipment, organizing all these things. And that's huge.
Yes.
Because it helps me to actually connect dots faster in my mind. It helps me to go on to the next thing. It helps me to get more done. It makes me faster.
Yes.
And that's huge. And I just think when it comes to my own health, when I don't have to think about what am I going to eat? How am I going to eat? How am I going to just, even when it comes to just what am I going to wear, and having those things planned out, it makes everything that much easier to manage. Less stress, less mess, and I'm able to function faster. That's huge. Now, Erin, we were talking about behind the scenes about a new rule you have called the 110 rule.
Yeah.
Am I saying that right?
You are. Yes.
Tell me, what is the 110 rule?
That's awesome. Glad you asked about that. So the 110 rule is about really doing one thing for 10 minutes. Okay. So a lot of my clients, they suffer from feeling stressed or overwhelmed because they're trying to clean or organize their entire home in one day. Mm-hmm. So what I suggest is doing one thing for 10 minutes before they leave the house.
Okay.
So let's just say if that means making your bed. If that means maybe tidying up your bathroom countertop, instead of thinking like I have to tidy up everything, just picking one area to focus on. And if you do that every single day, you'll start to notice that your home can change. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times, if a person is unable to get someone like me to come into their home, they can start doing some of these tasks just to feel a little bit more energy, because now they feel like they've accomplished something. So it doesn't, you're not looking for perfection. A lot of times we're in this society, we're looking for everything to be perfect.
Right.
But my goal is not to seek perfection is really to seek progress.
Okay.
So if you do little steps every single day, you take 10 minutes, after brushing your teeth, you say, okay, you know what? Today I'm going to put all the shoes away instead of having them all over the floor.
Yeah.
Or today when I go outside to my car, I'm going to just throw out some things so my car is not looking all disorderly.
Right. So they don't have to finish something, but for 10 minutes they're making progress on something. Yeah. And that's very helpful. I can see how that can move someone forward and feel like they're being accomplished. They're achieving a goal, mm-hmm. and they're pushing things forward. Right. I get that. And do you have, it sounds like you might have a whole, is it a seminar? Is it a protocol? Is it what is it? Is it a class, or is it what are you doing with that further?
So I discussed this rule and really seeking progress over the perfection in my
something that they could take home, a person could take home, and reset their home, even if you're not there.
Right.
So it's like taking Erin Johnson home with you.
Exactly.
Okay, I get that.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense.
Exactly.
No, that's perfect.
Yes.
Okay, that's awesome. See, that's awesome. And I think that's amazing, because you can only be in one place at one time. Right. Obviously, it's so important that people have this type of organizational tool.
Yes.
One of the things I want to move into, because I always have everyone on my show tell us about how they move, eat, drink, sleep. And I'm going to ask you these questions because, you're a very high functioning person. Everyone I have on my podcast is high functioning. If you're going to be high functioning, you have to have a system to keep yourself healthy.
Exactly.
Being healthy is important. Now, like I said, one of the reasons you're on the show is because organizing and creating systems in my personal space and for my family and I helps us to stay healthy.
Right.
My acronym, move, eat, drink, sleep. When I talk to people about that, these are 4 principles that I believe help people to stay healthy.
Right.
So Erin, tell us how you move, eat, drink, sleep so that you can be a high functioning CEO of your business and help other people stay organized. So start with the move part. How do you move? What do you do for exercise?
I usually try to get a workout in on a daily basis. So even if that means walking, because I am very busy, I may not make it to the gym very often, but I do a lot of walking. We do walks as a family, my husband and my children. Also, my husband and I, we do our morning walks together as well. So we do a lot of walking, and I would say that's what I would say for movement for sure.
When we talk about eating, obviously, you're organizing other people's homes. I'm sure you have a pretty organized home and systems in play.
Right.
What does that look like for you and your house?
So I think a great system that we've implemented would be definitely having the fresh fruits available for my children, as well as healthy snacks. I like to make things reachable. Although my sons are not as small as they used to be, but when they were small, I like things to be very reachable and accessible. I don't want people to have to open up a lot of packages to get to things. So I have things set up in baskets in my pantry so that my kids can easily see what's there. And then even when we have to run to the grocery store, we can easily see like, oh, granola bars are down, or, or this particular snack is down, or our nuts are down, or whatever it is. That's one of the systems I think that we implemented, as well as like when they come in, emptying out backpacks and having a place to put your shoes, a place to put your backpack. That's super important because a lot of times when kids come home from school, a lot of parents feel overwhelmed because their kids just throw things everywhere because they don't have a place.
Right.
So I think really developing a place for everything so that when people come in, like a place for your keys, place for your shoes, so that everybody knows where things go, so then your house can stay in order.
And that's how you have like your kitchen set up, as far as the foods that we eat, pretty much similar to what we were talking about.
Exactly.
What about D, for drinking or hydration? What is your favorite go-to drink or hydration that you use?
Water.
Okay. Just plain water?
I love plain water, and occasionally I'll do a hot water with lime. And that's amazing.
You don't use lemon, you use lime.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Just water, hot water and lime?
Hot water and lime.
Okay, that's very interesting.
And it tastes, it's really nice.
Yeah, I'll have to try that.
But just do a half a lime.
Yeah. I need to put that on my list. I think we need some more lime.
Yeah, limes are great. I do lemons occasionally as well, but limes are really good. They're more alkaline.
Yeah.
So I do like doing the lime over the lemon.
Yeah.
But I do both.
Yeah.
But plain water, I carry bottles of water everywhere I go, and I'm always trying to drink a lot of water. Yes.
Okay.
I need to, especially with all the work that's involved in my daily life. So water is super important, especially in the summer.
Yeah.
You don't want to be dehydrated. So water is super important.
Now here's one. Tell me about sleep. Tell me about what's your sleep pattern like?
Well, my sleep pattern is different.
You don't sleep.
I don't sleep very often because I do a lot of...
You get rest. You have to get rest.
I do get rest. But for me, a lot of people, they're thinking they need like 8 hours or 9 hours of sleep. But for me, no matter what time I go to bed, because there's different times depending on what client I'm working with or project I'm working on. But whatever time I go to sleep, I count at least 5 to 6 hours.
Okay.
And I know that's probably not much for most people, but as long as I can get somewhere between that 5 to 6
that's what your number
hours
is, 5 or 6.
is a good amount of sleep where I wake up and I feel refreshed. Now, if I get less sleep, I'm not going to feel as refreshed. I can function, but I won't feel as rested. But I feel rested at a 5 to 6 hours. I feel refreshed enough to go a full day again.
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I get it. That makes sense. No, that's very helpful. So you don't have like a set schedule in terms of going to sleep, but you get the hours that you need.
Exactly.
So that you're highly functioning. So if I were to say, what time you go to bed, what time you wake up, that's kind of an ebb and flow. It just depends on the projects that you're working on.
Right. Because some clients I may be working overnight.
Right. Exactly.
Some people,
because you're working with executives, you're working with CEOs, you're working with celebrities, and it's really kind of a 24/7 meeting demands, and that's important.
Yes,
and that's the role of an organizer.
Yes,
that's huge. That's major. I mean, the job that you do for my family and I is amazing. Like I said at the beginning of this podcast, it makes us that much more faster, organized. We feel more free, and we get to live a worry-free life. It makes a difference. And I know from a business standpoint, it helps the strategies that you've implemented and the systems you've implemented help me to just really focus on what I love to do, take care of patients and really propagate the message of Littleton Concierge Medicine and work with people as a concierge doctor, and without having to think about some of the behind the scene things. It makes a huge difference. You know, having an executive organizer makes a huge difference. And so I thank you for being on the show. Thank you for talking with us, explaining what you do and what an executive organizer is. Where can people find you? How can they connect with you?
Okay, that's perfect. So you can connect with me either on Instagram or Facebook, and that's at Erin K. Johnson. You can also find me online if you're interested in that 7-day home reset for your energy level. If you're interested in that, you can go to becleanbewell.com.
Okay.
And you can be able
that's
to get
becleanbewell.com?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. And so that's where you would find that particular free download as well.
Awesome. And so if people want to engage with your executive organizing services, they can go to becleanbewell.com?
They can.
Okay. Perfect.
And
awesome.
they will find information about that as well.
Thank you for being on there.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Listen, you guys, thank you for joining me today on the Concierge Doc Podcast. As I always say, you know, make sure that you remember to subscribe, and also go to the YouTube channel, subscribe there as well. I want you to make sure that you also check out our socials on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. You can catch this podcast on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and actually we're worldwide now. We have people listening to us from all over the world. So I want you guys to tune in, stay tuned in. Thank you for joining me. I'll see you next time.